Welcome back to another episode of The Last Zebra. I'm your host, Ugo Ezema. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Today's guest, Raney Antoine Jr.
My dog.
Welcome to the show, man.
Man, thank you, man. Nobody called me for stuff like this. My dog hit me. I said, man, I'm in that thing.
Appreciate you coming through, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Man, a native of the West Bank, of the New Orleans area. So from Herrero, born and raised. Went to college here too. So I'm just musician, producer based out here in the city, my hometown, doing my thing. Wound up becoming a professor of hip-hop and R&B at Loyola after some time in the middle and high school system. Starting this program, you know, the whole give the people what I didn't have type thing. So yeah, man, that's my thing. Musician, producer, just out here getting to it, dog.
How does one become a professor of hip hop and R&B?
If I knew, I would tell you. It's wild.
Yeah.
And what's the craziest thing about it is homegirl actually framed it to me in a way I didn't think about. We were talking about, she was like, so basically she said that job sounds made up. And she was like, not in a negative way, like you legit made your job.
Right.
And I was like, dang, I guess I did.
Yeah. Because it wasn't there before you got there.
No. So I attended Loyola. That's where I got my my bachelor's from. So undergrad, I'm there 2010 to 2014 in the music industry studies program. So basically music business.
Right.
And it was cool. I learned a lot. I was around a whole lot of cool people. But there were no professors that did what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to make Black music, R&B, hip hop, soul, the whole thing. Like I want to be able to create, record, produce, write, all of that. And there were no professors that did that.
Right.
And the professors that were there was a business professor that was still in the mix, but everybody else was like basically has-been type vibes.
Right.
Stuff they had done 10 years prior or something like that. So I met a guy, UP, my now partner over there, also a professor of hip-hop and R&B. Met him my last year at Loyola, like end of 13, going into 14, something like that. And myself and my homegirl, Kim, basically went to the director at the time, John Snyder, and was like, yo, you got to hire this dude because we've been over here at his studio and we done learned way more from a craft perspective. We've learned way more from him in just a few weeks than we've had all 4 years at Loyola, specifically to the craft of Black music.
Right.
We were in his studio one time. We went to the kitchen and just talking about you could study everything else in Western academia, any space of music, any space of art, you know, medicine, the sciences, liberal arts, whatever. But you can't study hip hop and R&B anywhere. So there was a version, kind of like a 1.0 version of the program that they tried. And it garnered some successes for sure. And then in 2021, Loyola made the decision to properly name it and facet the Bachelor of Science in Hip Hop and R&B. And that's when I came on. So started teaching there adjunct in 19. By 21, I was full-time professor of hip hop and R&B. So it basically was like me putting my then mentor and homie, putting him in position to kind of get it started. And then, you know, I went and got my master's at the U real quick because...
University of Miami?
Yeah.
Oh.
So...
The U.
Yeah, VU. So had to get a master degree because it was like, all right, you going to get some Grammys and a Billboard record first or a master? Because the only way you could circumvent the degree is if you have like, you know, that industry success.
And that is to be able to be an educator
An actual
in that
professor,
space, in
yeah.
that tertiary space.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So basically, the director, Snyder, was like, go get a master's so you could come work and build this program with us.
What was that master's in?
Music business and entertainment industries. Yeah, so it's a master of music and music business and entertainment industries. Yeah.
Let's dial it back to the young days.
Yeah.
What was your influence? What were your influences that made you drawn to music in such a way that it has become essentially the core part of your professional life? How did the love of music start?
Man, I feel like it's a really similar story to a lot of other people, you know, especially coming up in the South. We grow up in church, do the whole thing. And church was my start, but I mean, it's always been a thing. Mm-hmm. It's always been a thing that like I never thought about, you know. I was always the kid beating on the coffee table, getting fussed at.
Yeah.
Beating on the headrest of my mama's seat, giving her a headache with my hands or whatever. I was 7. Mm-hmm. My grandfather is I give him, obviously my parents invested a lot into me and support me till this day. Mm-hmm. Like, biggest fans, whether you give them a thing to be a fan of or not. They're the hugest fans of mine, and I love and appreciate them for it. But my grandfather was the first yes that I got that, like, threw me into it. I was 7, and he's a pastor, so the church needed a drummer. And they were doing tryouts or, like, auditions for the drummers. So I don't know how many people. I was 7. I don't even remember. All I know is I was there with my dad and my grandfather. They're listening to these drummers. And I'm like, Papa, I want to try out. And my dad's like, Raney, go sit down. So I want to do it. I want to try out. So I guess probably in between drummers or in between auditions, they let me get up there, play. It was probably trash. But I was like so passionate about it. I was like, I want to do it. But like, I'm 7.
Yeah.
Like, how old are your kids?
4 and 2.
Okay, so like, let's say your 4-year-old talking about they want to do some stuff. You're gonna be like, man, all right,
go sit down.
You go sit down.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
But my grandfather said, you know, he seems pretty serious about this. So he looked at me and was like, Raney, if you go to drum lessons and you get better, then you could be the drummer. So in my mind, and I'm low-key still this way as a grown man, but in my mind, when somebody tell me I can't do something, it like irks me. So when my parents were like, you just saying that. Oh, I'm just saying that. So it might have almost been out of spite, low-key. I don't even know. But like, by the time I got to drum lessons, shout out to Doug Walsh. He's the only drum instructor I've ever had. He taught me all of the technique and everything that I know. Shout out to Mr. Doug at Ray Franson Drum Center. At the time, they told my mom they weren't taking kids that young at 7. So Mr. Doug was like, okay, or everybody was full. We're not taking that age. Like some stuff where, nah, we ain't gonna teach him.
Right.
She was having a hard time. Mr. Doug was like, all right, pull up. We'll shed a little bit. Like we'll play together and see what's up. So we shed it. And he was like, he's got something. Let's see what's up. And I kind of just grew, man. And it wasn't without, you know, growing pains for sure. Like I would get off beat. I would play too fast and different things like that. But I think around like 10 years old, I was playing better than some grown men for real. I was really nice when I was like between that like 12 and 16 years old.
You were that drum guy.
I was nice.
Yeah.
I was nice. So
when did you end up getting the church drum?
So, oh man, I'll never forget it. Ooh, so different musicians would come in and out, and they would bring their own drummers.
Yeah.
So I would always have my little feelings hurt. So I don't know, like how many Baptist churches or older black churches you've been to, but traditionally there's always that little kid that's sitting by the drums or playing with drumsticks on the floor while praise and worship is going on or the music is happening. So, you know, I'm the grandson of the pastor. Whoever the drummer is already annoyed that he's throwing me on the drums like during offering or maybe like at the end of service. You know what I'm saying? So like I would just get to do a little something real quick and then I got to get off. So at one point they were like, all right, Raney, learn this song. And they gave me a song. So I learned that song. I think it's called In Perfect Peace. I forget the artist. I actually have a photo on my Instagram of me on a kit smiling. I put because that was the first time I had ever recorded drum set. It was odd. I don't know why it took so long. But I basically worked on that song every drum lesson. Like at the end, I had it on cassette or maybe CD, brought my little boom box, this black boom box my parents had. I would bring it to drum lessons and I learned it note for note, lick for lick. And the Sunday came where we were supposed to do that song. And I remember it being an issue, low key. Like, I think they didn't think I was going to go learn it. Because I kind of remember the keyboardist being like, oh, my brother going to play it. And then I remember my parents being like, no, he learned it. Like, he's got it.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right. And the song came on. Like, sat in that thing.
You got it?
And everybody was shocked. And it felt so good because I just felt like I proved everybody wrong, for real.
How old were you then?
Maybe 9.
So this was roughly...
Maybe 8. I was young.
Yeah.
I was dumb young.
Yeah.
I don't remember when that record came out, but it was like that year. I'm going to have to fact check that. I don't know how old I was. Time is weird to me.
But that's really cool because that means from... Essentially, within 2 years of you starting the drum lessons, you had this opportunity.
Oh, for sure within 3. It might have been in 1. So basically 1 to 3 years, like I was in there. I was in there for sure.
And were you able to, I guess, usurp, take over?
Oh, yeah. From that moment, it was a wrap. It was over. It was mine. I wasn't giving it up. And then once my grandfather really saw, like, oh, he could play.
Yeah.
It was a wrap from there. It was mine.
What kind of music were you listening to? I know now you're a professor of hip-hop, R&B, soul. Is that what you grew up listening to?
Nah.
Which I imagine is difficult coming from a church home.
Yeah. So... both of my parents are preachers. My father is a pastor, been a minister since forever. I grew up in church. So, yeah, it was heavy on the gospel. Like, we didn't listen to much else. The only, like, if we're in the car, like 90% of the time, it's gospel music.
Right.
It was gospel music growing up. We would listen to... other stations sometimes, but not for real. Like I grew up heavy on the gospel, but at the crib, like we had a pool table in the room in the front. So like when we were playing pool or we would have little dance parties or whatever, like I remember running around myself. My sister Yvonne wasn't born yet, but myself, my sister Kayla, my mom and dad, we would run around the house just like dancing and singing. So those records would be like, my dad loved Luther.
Vandross.
Yeah, and my mom is a huge Sade fan and a huge Tony Braxton fan. And my dad also loved Anita Baker, the Rapture album. So my sensibility for soul music, which I didn't really even know it as that at the time, was Sade, Luther,
Anita,
Tony. And then like even thinking right now, like that's probably like the pen of like Babyface, not even realizing like
that's right.
how like later in life it would influence me in the way it does, or just the respect for his craftsmanship. But yeah, man, like that was the time I would learn basically from whenever I could start recalling memory to about 6th grade. Sixth grade. I don't
Yeah.
know how old you are in sixth grade, but yeah.
The American education system kind of still remains foreign to me. I've been here for a long time, but
Yeah.
in my mind, I don't think, because I grew up in Jamaica.
Oh, word.
I grew up
What part
between-
of Jamaica you grew up in?
That's a very good question. So I grew up between Nigeria and Jamaica,
Oh, snap.
both of which adopt the English
Sure.
system of education.
Yeah.
So we say ours. You would say sixth grade. We would say grade 6. It's a bit,
Oh, for sure.
but after grade 6, we don't say seventh grade. It will be you go to high school. So
it's just high school. We just in that.
yeah. So from
Yeah.
sixth grade, there's no seventh grade. It becomes first form, which
Yeah.
is seventh grade.
Oh,
second
gotcha.
form, which is eighth grade, and onward. So
Got you.
in sixth grade, I must have been, which is my grade 6. I was probably 10ish,
Yeah.
right? Because
So,
then
yeah.
I would have gone
Sure.
to our high school
Yeah, that makes sense.
around 10 or 11.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
because we
makes
don't do
sense.
middle school. We just do
Yeah, it's primary. and
primary,
then-
secondary school, college, tertiary school.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha.
Secondary school is high school.
Yeah.
So we don't have a middle grade, which I still don't know what grades are middle
So
grade.
technically, middle school,
Middle school.
you could stretch it to 5th grade, but it's traditionally 6th, 7th, 8th.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I taught secondary as well as middle, so
Yeah,
primary.
yeah.
At this point, I've literally taught K through collegiate.
Always
undergrad.
music?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
When did you realize, first of all, that you're going to make your profession centered around music in such a way that you made
Oh,
that decision
man.
going into college? When were you like,
As soon as I got nice on kit, I was like, I'm gonna be a professional drummer.
I love that.
I'm gonna be like Tony Royster Jr.
I love. Who's that?
Like a killing drummer. But the reason that I admired him is because he was super young when he started. So like I remember, I don't know who sent the video, but they sent a video of Tony playing at like a clinic or something. He was super young, and they were like, "This reminds me of you, Raney." Like somebody sent it on like MySpace or maybe something like that.
Oh no, not MySpace.
You did? Yeah. I sound mad old. But somebody sent that joint, and I was like, yeah, I was probably pretty nice. I mean, he was nicer than me at that age for sure. But yeah, I was like, oh, like that? Oh yeah, I'm trying to be Tony.
That's
I'm trying to be
amazing.
like Tony. And then I saw Making the Band on MTV. And I saw Brian Michael Cox and Jermaine Dupri making the records for Day 26. And it said like producer, songwriter. And I was like enamored with that process. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. And that's when I knew I would do production and songwriting. Because before it was like, I want to be a professional musician. I want to be a music director. I want to be a touring musician, a touring MD. That's what I thought. But then like, this profession is mad unconventional and like super entrepreneurial. So I remember my parents even like getting into Loyola for undergrad. Like I'm in the kitchen signing my letter of intent, or maybe in the dining room, and my mom came and was like, "Raney, you sure this is what you want to do?" Like signing the letter of intent and everything. She was still like kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Which I could imagine any parent being on some like, man, what you gonna do when you done? And shoot, I ain't even know. I wasn't even as proactive as I probably should have been from the jump. But like, I'm here now, man. It's been a wild ride. But yeah, I've known since drums, I knew I was going to be a musician, period. So like 7, 8, 9, I was like, I'm going to be a professional musician.
So that's interesting too, because I feel, and I have no proof of this. This is just my anecdotal observation, that not many people who are passionate about music, I'll make the guess that the vast majority of people who are passionate about music don't actually go into formal education for music. So after high school, they start just playing in bands or
or just do both.
Or just do both. Why did you? What was your impetus? Maybe parents, but what was your impetus to say, "All right, I'm going to go to college to pursue this"? If I have to go to college,
I had to go to college. No, that's what it was. Like, my parents are pretty educated.
Yeah,
they both have, terminal degrees and such, or at least my mother, doctorate, and pops got the master's degree, and so education's a thing. It wasn't an option to not go to college. So like the high school I went to is a magnet school in Metairie, Haynes Academy.
Oh, you went to Haynes?
Yeah.
I got you.
So like one of the best schools in the state for sure.
Right.
And they consistently get ranked as one of the best magnets in the country. So, I'm there. It's pushed at school like college, It's the American system. Like,
right.
It's not about trade. It's not about real life. You don't get taught taxes or, being financially fiscal or any of that. It's just like, take all this random info you're never going to use and then go to college and get in debt so we can control you forever. And I know that's wild for me to say as a professor, which is why I'm so passionate about what I do. 'Cause I feel like Western academia is definitely a method to just put people in debt so you can basically control a class within this American system, I guess. So, like, at the time, I didn't think about it like that.
Right.
At the time, it was like, it was what you do. You go to school through high school, you graduate, you go to college, and then you get a job. Only thing was, I didn't know what job I was going to get.
Right.
And with my parents, like, trying to make things conventional, it's like, well, you could get into this and you could get into that. And I just always knew I wanted to make records. And then education just happened because I needed a job. And I was picky. I didn't want to just do any old thing like, go work for FedEx, but like go to the studio at night.
Right.
I just didn't want to do that. And I know I suck with monotony. I don't do well with it at all. So the same exact thing every single day
wasn't for you.
Yeah, and I've always known that. And as creatives, we don't do well with that. When it's the thing that we spend most time on, monotony don't work. We love the routine to decompress, but when it comes to like what we're doing with the majority of our time day to day, that stimulation stuff, like I need some vibes.
Right. Right.
So I knew traditional wasn't gonna work for me for sure.
You mentioned that you did work from K all the way up. When was that first educational opportunity?
Yeah.
And what was that like? What were you?
Nuts. Crazy. So I legit, like, I was still living with my parents when I graduated. And
this is from Loyola.
Yeah. So I was still at the crib. And I remember Pops was on the sofa. I'm washing dishes, basically complaining about not knowing what I was going to do.
You were complaining or?
Yeah,
okay.
I was.
Yeah.
I was just complaining about, like, dang. Almost like, why did I even go to school for this?
Wow.
Like, it was just, I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even remember what I was doing at that time. But I definitely was not on some, like, I'm about to go to LA, I'm about to go to New York, I'm about to go to Atlanta, I'm about to go to Miami to, like, thug it and figure it out, chase my dream type thing. I wasn't on that time. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm here. Like, I guess probably waiting for something to pop off. It was weird. But literally complain about all that. Then my phone dings, a sound that I wasn't even, like, familiar with, but it was Facebook. Now, once Twitter and Instagram started happening, I pretty much left Facebook alone. I still don't be on Facebook.
Right.
So Facebook pops up, and it's my talent music teacher from middle school. From high school, Miss McLean. So Miss McLean hits me and is like, Raney, please call me. You're out of school, right? you still do music? I was like, yeah. She was like, call me. And she sent me her number. I'm like, what's up, Miss McLean? It's wild. Now, mind you, I haven't talked to this woman since 2010, and it's now 2014. She was like, you're done with school, right? You got your degree? I was like, yeah. She was like, you got a job yet? I'm like, no. And mind you, right after complaining about everything, it dings. And she was like, well, call the principal right now. There's a job. You can come teach talent music here at Haynes, the high school I graduated from. And I was like, all right. So in my mind, I'm like, a teacher, bro? And I had a bad attitude about it. I regret that, actually. Yeah. I had a bad attitude about it first going in because I was like, I didn't even want people to call me a teacher. It's like, man, I'm just Raney. I'm just here for it. You know what I'm saying?
Why do you think you had that attitude about it?
I don't know, bro. I'd be weird sometimes. I think it was just in my mind. I wanted to be viewed a certain way, and I wasn't. And that kind of went back to 7 years old. It was like I wanted to be a drummer and like people to respect that. But you gotta put the work in. You can't just say I'm a this and you ain't doing nothing to show it. So at that time, obviously, you know, being classically trained on both drums and keys.
Keys being piano?
Yeah, piano. So like drums at 7, keys at 12. Teaching middle school to high school kids about music theory, music performance, and stuff like that. It's low key easy.
Right. And
it was a salary. At the time, I was like super driven to get married and stuff like that to my girl. And so I was like, all right, cool. This will enable me to like get my bread up, move out, get married, do the thing. So I did that and wound up being there for like 6 years.
What was that? Because it sounds, well, to be there 6 years, at some point you must have started to enjoy it. Or at least found some benefit. I found a vibe. Yeah. What was that like? What was it that kept you there?
Yeah.
And in terms of finding time and space to exercise the creativity that you so clearly was looking for.
Yeah.
How did that fulfill that for you?
So the job, I don't know if the job did it. So while I'm doing all of this, I'm still like trying to get better at making music. Because remember at Loyola, like the craft of making records, like I learned the technical side because I was an audio engineer, teaching assistant at Loyola. The person who presses the buttons and all that stuff and mix and record and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna work in a studio, I gotta be able to do all that studio recording stuff. So started learning that, and I was good at that. And I know how to make records, and I graduated knowing how to do it, but not at the level of like a pro. So getting mentored by UP and just learning how he did records, because he's an OG in the game, you know, Young Money, Cash Money, everybody from New Orleans. Like he was just an OG that was just giving me knowledge and allowed me to use his studio for free, like to do whatever I wanted to do.
Wow.
And then like in exchange for him, I'm like engineering these sessions of like different people around the city and people who would come in town. So still sharpening my my skills as an engineer, but giving me a space to grow as a producer and songwriter. So it's like Loyola Haynes was happening, like Mr. Antoine was happening, but it was like, it was money so I could like live and still be straight and go to the studio and be fine. So it was like, okay, I could do this and then keep working on getting better at music. And I think once I got dope at music, it was kind of me thinking, okay, what else can I do? So I did not know, to tell the truth, I didn't know I would be passionate about young people. I didn't know that would be a thing, but I'm mad passionate about my students, man. All of my Haynes kids, like, and you got to imagine, like, in retrospect, like a 21-year-old dude pulling up teaching music class, like, yeah, like as a, 12 to 17, 18-year-old kid.
That's a cool dude.
Yeah, like, I was the cool teacher or whatever, right? So, like, I that probably fed my ego a little to make it feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Than me looking at it like, dang, I'm a teacher. This is weird. Because that's how it felt.
Yeah.
I just took it because it was a thing. And, 2020 happened. I left the Jefferson Parish system. And then COVID happened a couple months later.
Right.
So then that threw everything, obviously. And but the end of 2019, right before I left JP, started teaching adjunct. So like the evening classes at Loyola in audio engineering. And when I did that, I was like, oh, this a vibe. Like, I could do this.
Right.
Like, I could teach, and it's with actual grown adults. Well, that's debatable. But definitely young adults.
Yeah, young adults for sure.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, I can hold them to a certain level of, like, accountability and things like that. So, yeah, man, that's what solidified the education thing. Doing it, like, 6 through 12... I think I was just there growing up for real. Growing up as a young man, figuring life out. And it was a check so that I could figure life out.
Right.
And then once I got to Loyola, it was a vibe. And still making records. So like my day would be, I had early morning duty, bus duty. So I would have to be there by like 6:35 or something like that, 6:40 at the latest.
This is at Haynes.
Yeah. So my alarm going off at 5:50. Get to school, do everything. We got out at like between 2:40 and 3:20. They would change the time we get out like year to year or something. So I'm getting out basically by 3:30. The studio was about 10 minutes away. I would leave there, go to the studio, take a nap real quick, anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, eat, be in the studio till 10, 11, 12, 1, 2.
Wow.
Then go home, sleep, do it again. And I did that for a minute.
And the time you were spending in the studios, mostly doing audio engineering and
making records.
And making records.
Yeah.
That sounds so amazing.
Does it?
The idea
Man, it made me sick. I started getting sick. I had to stop doing that.
Why did it make you sick?
I don't know. I don't think I was just doing it right. I probably wasn't sleeping enough, wasn't eating enough. I don't know.
But were you having a good time doing it?
Oh, man, I loved it. I felt like I was living the life I wanted to live.
Right.
And I knew I just wanted to get better, get dope.
What's the process of making a record? Like when you say that, what does that mean from conception to execution? What does that mean?
Well, it's 2024 now, so everybody has their own like vibe of how that goes. Like right now, today, my students will have a beat that's made already. If they're a recording artist or if they're a beat maker or a producer, they will go like on Splice or something, somewhere that has like some musical element already created. They'll put some drums on it, copy paste, maybe a little beat switch, something like that. And that's a beat on the computer.
Right.
And then an artist will come in and either write on the spot and record or take it with them, take a few days to vibe with it and then come in and do something. So that's that. Like you make a beat, then you make up some words and then you record it and then that's that. For me, I generally enjoy making records like organically.
What does that mean for
so
you?
Not so like, all right, here a beat, or here's like 20 beats, pick one and say whatever you want to say on it. I'm more of a like, who are you? So like, like, what's up? So we eat lunch together. I'm just chopping it up with you and kind of seeing what makes you tick, what's on your mind at the time, what's been going on with you, what the vibes are. Because for me, I want to make something that means something to you. And if it means something to you, the listener is going to feel that. Because when you feel that thing, you could perform all you want, but you know the difference between a record that's just like a little whatever fun bop, which is fire, and those are fun to make too.
Right.
It's just, I be thinking a lot. I'm a thinker. So I be like wanting to get into the psyche and see what gets you going, whatever it is. Even if your vibe right now is like, man, I just went to this party and, you know, old girl was woo, 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 and it was crazy. And after we did whoa, whoa, whoa. So it's like, oh, let's make the soundtrack to that moment, you know? So for me, in a perfect world, we have a conversation, and then somebody's gonna say something that resonates with the room, whether it's just you and I or other creative collaborators. You're gonna say something, and it's like,
that's the one.
And then like, yeah, and then you kind of decide what kind of energy you want that record to have and how you want it to make people feel, and go from there.
To date, how many records do you think you've made so far?
Just made, like release or unreleased? Man, I don't even know. I know I've just gotten to the point where I started releasing stuff.
Where do you release
them? Which is odd. Like everywhere.
Wow.
So I had, right after school, I was kind of like I said, getting better. And my homegirl, Kim, put out a record. I think it might have been 2016, 2017.
Kim?
My homegirl, Kim, that I met UP with at school.
Got you. Yeah,
we went to school together.
Yeah.
And I was producing her when she was into the artist thing. She put a record out. That was the first song I ever put out. And I remember writing the majority of that song in my global sociology class, like just being bored in this class. And just started
jotting
writing
some stuff down.
Yeah. And then I remember getting out of class, calling her, being like, yo, I got this idea. Like, it's hard. And we probably worked on that song for months.
Really?
Yeah. We ain't know what we was doing all the way yet. We ain't know what we were doing. You can make a song in a couple hours now, but but we worked on that thing for, it felt like forever. We put it out and I was like, I'm a producer now. That was probably like 2016, maybe even 2015. And then it was just me working through relationships with artists, because all of the people I saw every producer had an artist, at least one. So like, if you, like I said, Jermaine Dupri and B. Cox, if you think Jermaine Dupri, you think
Bow Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You think The Brat, you think Usher's Confessions, you know, you think So Def, Crisscross, stuff like that.
That's right.
Same thing with B. Cox. You think Jagged Edge and like all these other joints. So Monica, like they, like every producer, Pharrell's my favorite producer of all time.
Speaking of which, you know, he has have you seen his, it's essentially a autobiography, but it's in Lego form. I am excited for that.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. I'm going to be in that joint for sure. So like Pharrell's my favorite. So when I discovered him, went down that rabbit hole, seeing how like in the DMV area, how he came up, he was on the drum line or in the percussion section of his band. I was a section leader on the drum line at my school and played drums. So it was like, he's like me. He was just so cool. Just everything he does. I still feel that way. Like everything he does is just fire. Like he's leading LV now. So, like, seeing all that and watching how all of them make records, I would just try what I saw, because that was like early YouTube time. So like watching him make records for like Justin Timberlake and them, and he had the clips as well.
Yeah.
So like that was his first big one. And then like so my big three are like outside of Quincy Jones. So Quincy Jones is like upper echelon. He's like Michael Jordan. He's in a room of his own. Yeah. Get out of here. He's the GOAT. So outside of Quincy, Pharrell, Q-Tip, and Will.I.Am were the most inspiring to me. So Will.I.Am obviously had Black Eyed Peas, and then Tip had Tribe Called Quest. So I was like, man, I need an artist, clearly. And I just felt like I never found one.
Yeah.
I was just like trying. And that was me making records, just trying to find someone that I could like work with consistently and like create a sound with.
Right.
And yeah, man.
Were you able to find someone? Are you still searching?
At this time, I feel like I'm still searching. But I have my homie Benji, recording artist. He's part of Spillage Village.
Okay.
So like JID, Earth Gang, Mareba, Black, all of them. So that's the artist that I'm really like invested in right now as a producer and songwriter. He came down to New Orleans and we did all kinds of records. He has a project coming out super, super soon. I'm on half of it.
That's amazing.
So like, yeah, that's kind of my introduction. I put out producer records like Raney featuring whoever. I put out like 3 of those starting in like 2017. Just to be like, man, I'm not going to wait on the artist. I'm going to just put songs out.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
They sound old and like I cringe when I hear them.
Have you gotten to a place where you have your own sound, or at least
people say I do. I still don't know it. Is it? People say I do.
Is it a mashup of those people that have influenced?
That's a good question.
The Will.I.Ams, the Pharrells, Quincy Jones.
I would have to imagine. I draw on all of them pretty consistently, and then like when I'm writing. So like getting out of the production thing and just writing lyric and melody. Frank Ocean is huge.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening to the Lonnie Bro collection whenever I discovered that. It's like, are you familiar with the Lonnie Bro collection?
Yes, because
for sure.
It's one of my favorite. I think it's underappreciated as a.
Oh, dang.
I think it's underappreciated.
Yeah.
He has so many.
Yeah, people don't talk about it.
The people don't talk about it, and it's hard to find.
It's super hard.
It's very difficult to find.
Yeah.
So much so that I don't know if I have
the full thing. Yeah, 'cause who knows how many songs are on it.
It's like 20 something, 30 something, 40 something.
It's like 70, 80 songs. I've seen on YouTube it was like 100 something. I burned it on a CD.
It's so vast. And my favorite song on there is why am I blanking out right? But anyway, yeah, he has so many good songs. You can tell he's experimenting because his sound, he has a unique way of making his music.
His sense of melody is nuts.
That's a great way of saying it.
His
Frank
sense
Ocean
of melody is ridiculous.
A unique way of just when you hear it, you know it's a Frank Ocean song.
Yeah,
but you can still tell on the Lonnie Bro collection that he is experimenting.
Yeah, he's doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I still haven't found all the songs on there.
I'm gonna have to find it. It used to be on Dat Piff. Dat Piff died, but yeah, man, like your actual question was like, how do you make a record?
Yeah,
and here we are talking about Lonnie Bro collection. But like all of that kind of spoke to how I learned how to make a record, and that's kind of how I do it. Like anytime I ever saw Pharrell, Quincy, Tip, Will, they were always like really vibrant in the space and like really connected to the artist and picking their brain and like driving the ship. It's a little different these days. It's more like the producer, quote unquote, is just the person that makes the beat. And 9 times out of 10, they're not even in the room when the song on the beat gets made.
Gotcha.
They just send a beat or send a folder with like 40 beats.
And the artist and his sound engineer just go ahead
They
and
just go make the song with a songwriter or with themselves.
Right. Have you ever thought of yourself as being on the other side of the studio as the artist? Have you?
Me being an artist?
Yeah.
Like vocal performing?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Nah, I'll probably never do that. I'm just not confident enough in that side of things. I've done like vocoder stuff like on a record before, and little background vocals, and like on this Benji project coming up, like I'm on gang vocals. You'll never hear my voice solo because I don't think that's my lane. I'm gonna stick to what I know.
I think about so many producers that do, toggle.
Yeah, switch over.
Yeah.
Like for real.
What's his name? Ryan. What's his name?
Ryan Leslie.
Ryan Leslie.
Yeah.
That's my guy, man.
He's hard too. I always thought he was fire.
He's so talented. Also, another guy that I think is greatly underappreciated.
Super inspiring.
Super talented. Multi-instrumentalist.
Low-key genius.
Probably, yeah. And
like intellect.
Yeah,
like, he's up there.
One of my favorite songs by him is Gibberish. I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah.
A song about nothing, but clearly the musical.
Yeah, he got his thing.
Yeah, he knows what's up. He got it. He got the music thing down pat.
Yeah,
he understands it.
I remember discovering him and being like, dang, he played a lot of instruments. And like just the way he would use lead sounds, pads, and stuff like that. I was like, oh, he hard.
He's very creative.
I went down a Ryan Leslie rabbit hole for a minute.
Yeah.
Like just kind of following everything he did. I haven't really liked the records lately, but he had a moment where he was up.
Yeah.
So that was fun for sure.
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready is the song I was thinking about from Lonnie Brook collection.
I ain't gonna play it so we don't get taken down.
Ready, yeah. So good.
Yeah.
The Frank Ocean off of the Lonnie Brook collection.
Yeah.
The song is Ready. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to find.
Yeah. I know that whole project, I feel like back to back, if you started from beginning.
I'm gonna have to find it now.
Another tattoo. They got a joint. What's the other song? Because now we talking about favorites. I want to talk about my favorite shoe.
Do you have artists now that are out that you really enjoy listening to as a producer?
Artists?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Who am I heavy on right now? It's tricky because I went through a moment where I was just like, man, R&B ain't dope enough. Like popular R&B ain't dope enough. And I would go down this like laundry list of things I wish we had in a popular space. But like someone that people don't, well, now the popular like commercial space is becoming aware, but like someone like Kenyon Dixon, R&B, dude is crazy.
It's good.
Leon Bridges.
I knew you were about to say
I love him
next,
a lot. Who else?
You know, I don't know if he's considered R&B. Do you know St. John?
Yeah, the group. Yeah, that's a group.
Yeah. It's the...
Yeah, they hard. Yeah, bro. Like, I listen to so much stuff and not a whole lot of new stuff. But like, so you're asking just overall who I listen to? So overall, I'ma always have Mike. I'ma always have Stevie. Kendrick Lamar is my favorite rapper, so
we gotta
always
talk
some
about
dot
that.
in there.
Yeah.
Always some dot. all kinds of stuff.
He just hummed "They're Not Like Us."
Dog, I was just in LA and I heard it in LA for the first time, and I felt like I had like completed a side quest or some stuff.
Yo.
Like it was lit. I was in this party in this warehouse. It was like
and they were playing
12,
like
1,500 people in a big old warehouse.
Yeah.
DJs were going nuts. And then they like mixed it with Afrobeat or some stuff. It was crazy.
That song is so good. What do you think about the state of rap and hip hop right now?
It's all fun. It's all lit.
Because there's because the now the old head
Hip hop is dead type stuff.
hip hop is dead, mumble rap.
Yeah.
How people feel about that?
It's all fun.
How do you feel about that?
It's all hip hop. I have my convictions about like what music should and shouldn't be, but that don't change the fact that Lil this and insert buku consonants at the front of their name that like it doesn't mean that ain't hip hop. It's still hip hop.
So what does hip hop mean to you?
Mean to me is different than what it is. What it means to me is my livelihood. It's definitely part of my livelihood.
Yeah.
But hip hop is a culture. Rap is the music within it. So hip hop was birthed out of the DJ cutting records together on the block party, B-boys dancing. It was always a good time. And then the music could be just having fun, and it's like commentary on where like black life is at that moment. So that's what hip hop is. It's a culture. It's fashion. It's it's everything. Like it's a culture. So rap music, it's whatever you got going on in rap form, or whatever you want to be going on in rap form. Right. Like it's like one of the highest levels of self-expression and like archiving our time. I think there's a hip hop record for everything. If you just want to go from just the social commentary space, it's always been there. That's how music always is. Right. Even when you go to classical music, like the centuries you go through music is like you start with like liturgical music, like spiritual music, and then you go into the classical space, and then how classical music, like the arc and maybe the fall, some people would say, like how it changed and morphed into what it became. And then, that's just like classical music. Like there was a whole nother side of the planet, like Eastern music, happening with completely different notes, completely different scales, whole nother setup. So like hip hop comes and it's like none of that.
Right.
It's like the structure is like whatever you want it to be. It was just like rebellion against like what we would say music is supposed to be.
Right. As
you're taught. Or it's not real music or whatever. I remember doing my senior project, making it was like a hip hop-ish beat. And being like, yeah, I made a beat for my senior project because they were like, do something and shadow someone from the job you want. And I was like, I'm going to make this record. And they were like, that's not a job. Like, you got to do like something. So then I shadowed this like keyboard guy. He had a band and like shadowed him a little bit. But like, that's the thing. It's like, hip hop, and it's people still consider it not really a real thing, but black music is like the #1 export of America, low-key. Black art as a whole, black entertainment. And then it's like hip hop and R&B is always #1 genre and space, black music, period. So it's like hip hop is just that. It's just like, man, it's legit whatever you want it to be. And that level of freedom and openness is why you can have such a wide range of stuff that you can call hip hop.
Right.
It's like if it's classical music, you know what you're about to get.
Right.
If you call it country music, you generally know what you're about to get. Even pop, quote unquote, you kind of know the sensibilities and subject matter you're about to get into. You see hip hop,
It could
you
be
don't
anything.
know what it's about to be.
Yeah.
Because it's going to fuse all kinds of genres and styles. So again, I don't really mess with monotony.
Yeah.
So like hip hop was just something like, dang, you could really do any type of music and then somebody rap on it. So
rap, because I always think of rap as poetry with cadence.
sure.
So poetry with cadence with an underlying that's beat.
Yeah.
And that's the way I define rap in my mind.
Yeah. That's accurate.
And I love how you mentioned hip hop as a culture that kind of
rap's just inside of it.
rap is
a type of music that happens within hip hop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rap is a component or type of that culture of hip hop. But hip hop is itself kind of isn't necessarily just music. It is so much more than that.
It's community, it's dance, it's poetry, spoken word. Hip hop's a whole culture.
There's a lot of conversations, or there was a lot of conversation. Eminem just put out a new album. I haven't listened to it yet.
Oh yeah.
And there is a conversation about, guests in hip hop with regards to other races that contribute to hip hop. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel very conflicted about calling, say, an Eminem who truly has he has a presence in hip hop that is undeniable.
He undeniable top 10 any list. Period.
I agree,
and it might be top 5 for if you
can't call someone top 10, top 5. I guess I feel like
no, he ain't no guest. He Eminem.
He's Eminem.
People started rapping like that because of Eminem,
right?
Yeah,
so
he ain't no guest,
right?
He a pioneer for real.
He is a pioneer in hip hop,
1,000,000%.
Yeah,
even the stuff he would talk about,
right?
How silly he would be on records, or how like kind of grotesque he would get with kind of the stuff he would say, and how provocative he was. I mean, he got a whole movie, like,
right?
You don't just get a movie because you're a guest. Nah, that's one thing also about hip hop, about black music, period. We've never held anyone out of anything. The issue is that when we create something, it's taken. That's the issue. So like jazz, that's what happened. Slaves brought the vibes over from the motherland, and then we pull up, we're slaves, and Negro spirituals turn into Follow the Drinking Gourd and such like that. And then jazz, earliest records had it spelled with 2 S's, so jazz becomes this like music that feels the way it feels, that jazz felt, and just talking about the times and how we felt and what we thought. And then fast forward to jazz being basically hijacked and brought to New York with some guests. Take records you heard black folks doing, go up and record it, stealing jazz, and then trying to put jazz in a box to be taught on how to do jazz, when jazz was always a free-flowing, free-form thing. It was just taken and then tried to be managed, and that wasn't what that music was. And then that's where the blues came from as well. It's like, all right, well, y'all on that type of time, then we're gonna create this over here. And then, Little Richard and them, rock and roll,
Dizzy Gillespie, all those guys.
Yeah, so then you talk about big band, you talk about Herbie and them bringing in the electronic stuff, and like it was always just blossoming. I just call it all black music, soul music. And that's the coolest thing, is that hip hop was just a form of just black music.
Right.
Because we generally find something and then just do a thing, like there's no auto-tune anything without, T-Pain taking it and like revolutionizing the way we heard it. So like, J-Lo used it on that one part of that one record, and think it was Cher used it on
Cher
that
used
like
it, yeah.
one thing on that one record. And yeah, Roger Troutman introduced us to vocoding from a popular perspective and just having that feel and vibe for it. But like Payne got that thing and just turned it out, and it was crazy. So just black music has always just innovated, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's country, whether it's jazz, whether it's blues. We always create this thing and then it gets taken. So I think the commentary behind guests is more of like, we just ain't trying to get hijacked. We just want to make sure y'all know who the originator is.
At the beginning of our conversation, you had mentioned that even after you had graduated from Loyola, you were not interested in doing what might just be the standard path, which is go to Miami, go to LA, go to New York, and kind of grind it out, grind it up into the industry. Mm-hmm. Why was that not attractive to you?
I was super into my girlfriend, who's not my wife.
Yeah, shout out P.
So I was super into my girlfriend and wanted to get married, and in my mind, like, that was supposed to happen first. And then like once I got that done and was like, okay, I don't have to worry about my romantic life. Now I can chase my dreams. I think having a girlfriend and just being heavy into her just kept me in the city for real, and was like, and I was like relatively sheltered as a kid too. So like, you know, I got that scholarship from Loyola and was like, I'm not going to get student loans when I could like get almost a full ride paid for. Because for college, I thought about like, okay, if I go to Berkeley, I'll be in Boston, and then I'll like be like a short train ride or whatever from New York and Philly. So, and then it's like, ooh, but if I go to the U, I'll be in Miami, the vibes. And it's like, ooh, but if I go to USC, I'll be in LA. Disney gets all of their composers from there. But then you look at that out-of-state tuition and be like, oh. NYU, same thing. If I go to NYU, I could be in New York, and blah, blah, blah. But being raised the way I was, it's like, just stay home, just do your thing. And like caring a lot about my relationship at the time, I was just like, I'm cool with this. You know, I wasn't nearly as driven as I probably needed to be. I took my time. And I was focused on trying to marry my girl.
I mean, that sounds true to who you are, as opposed to trying to be something else. Yeah. Or to fit the what's the standard model, the standard mode. Yeah. I think being that authentic and genuine to yourself, especially as a paragon of music, as someone that is trying to create something because I think the best music are authentic ones. And
come from real stuff.
They have to come from real stuff. Your favorite music has to come from real stuff. Yeah, and the person creating it, if they are just as authentic, it makes that music much more so. Yeah, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's in hindsight, I'm glad it worked out. But yeah, like I just was just kind of here, and then. Yeah, the education thing kept me in it, kept making records. And then teaching at Loyola really opened things up for me as well. So that was like 5 years later, going back there and being like, all right, these students can't be better than me.
So I got to
if I'm teaching them. Yeah. You know? So that was a drive. And then just me looking back and being like, whoa, it's been 5 years. What do I have to show for it? And some cool stuff. Like, you know, I had performed, you know, some of my earliest, like, I guess, professional life things. Like, I got a call one day and my cousin managed this R&B group in the city that one of my other cousins was in, and was like, yo, Valentine's Day, we're opening up for Miguel. Can you put a band together? I said, okay. So I hang up the phone. I'm like 16, 17. I ain't never did that before outside of church.
Right.
So then I called my homie Jayhawk and was like, say, son, they talking about I got to put a band together. Like, you going to do it? And then my cousin August plays drums. So I was like, hey, let's just be a band and do this thing. So I wound up opening for Miguel at the Howlin' Wolf.
That's
and then
amazing.
I was like, ooh, I like this. And then not long, like, we kind of did some performances with them around the city.
Yeah.
Tank was at some club in Lafayette. So we wound up opening for him that night, one of those nights, doing that. And then, oddly enough, Xavier had their Spring Fest. They had Xavier Idol at the time. I don't know if they still do it, but the winner got to perform at Spring Fest. So opening for this year, that year was Kendrick Lamar and Melanie Fiona.
Wow.
Right. Kendrick opening for Melanie Fiona, which is wild. Yeah. So it was like right when Section 80 was happening and Melanie had 4 a.m., which was going nuts, like a number one record, I'm sure. So it was crazy. And it's at Springfest at an HBCU. So it's like, all right, let's go hit that. So we played for the chick who won. I think her name was Kayla. Josh just told me her name. I don't even remember it. Shout out to Kayla. I forget her last name. But yeah, we played for her and opened up for Kendrick and Melanie Fiona. Yeah, then I got into live entertainment. So it was just all this stuff. Like, you know, working for the NBA in their live production and entertainment office when they came down for
All-Star,
both those All-Star weekends, working with Essence for years, production on the McDonald's 365 Awards. So like just being behind the scenes on all that stuff, it was like, ooh. And then I think once I got to Loyola, I had this experience of like live entertainment. I was a stage manager at Voodoo Fest.
No way.
At like 16. I was an assistant stage manager at the Carnival stage. It was like the local act, and then they put like some like On the Bubble people, and then like somebody who had some hits like a few years prior. They put all that on one stage. So being like behind all that, like Judith Owens is the wife of like the guy who does like 40 or 50 of the voices on The Simpsons. Like got hooked up with her because of the stage managing thing, and like did some like production assistant stuff for her annual Christmas party.
That's amazing.
Like just random stuff, bro. Like it just kind of happened. And getting all this entertainment and music stuff. And then once I, like 2019, really started pushing the pedal down and fast forwarding to linking up with Benji. And I felt like that was just an epicenter for the both of us. He hadn't put out a record since Spillville, and he was featured on that stuff. And he hadn't put out a full length project since his first one, quite a few years prior to us meeting in 21, something like that. And we linked up, and the chemistry was just from the jump. The first song we ever made together is probably going to be on one of his upcoming projects. Not the one coming, but definitely on one of the upcoming. It was like the first song we ever made. And he was talking about, again, real life stuff with a producer who we had never made music together. But because we were just chopping it up and like we're talking in the car about music that inspires us and things like that. And I knew I wanted to go to a guitar sample and made the beat probably in about 15, 20 minutes. He walked in the office because we were doing a camp with all of our students. So everybody's making music, all the students making songs for Benji. And so he came in my room. He was like, man, what's this? I was like, this the energy that we were talking about in the car on the way to go whatever. He just sat down, and I came up with this melody, and probably in like an hour, we had a whole song.
That's amazing.
So it was just like that chemistry like that. And then, you know, fast forward, you know, anytime I've worked with him, it's always been mad fruitful. And that's my dog. Like, he's a real life friend now.
That's
awesome.
know?
So like, He's about to release a new project, his second in the series of Love Gun. So Love Gun 1, I co-wrote and co-produced Josephine on that project. So y'all go listen to that. Shout out to Benji. So co-produced, co-wrote that, and then co-produced a couple records, wrote on a couple records, and then I pretty much on a new project did like 2 of them. It was just he and I in New Orleans. He came down and we just cooked up a whole bunch of records.
It's just hearing you talk. It sounds like in your there's a quote from Bruce Lee: "Be like water." I don't know if you ever heard of this. Just be like water.
Yeah, that's me.
Just hearing exactly. Just hearing you talk, you sound like you embody that. Be like water.
I just be here.
Yeah, go
for better or for worse. I just be here, dog.
Go with the flow. And even in that setting, with that frame, you've thus far for sure, and I hope that continues, you've been exactly where you are supposed to be.
It feels that way.
Isn't that wild?
Man, yes. Keep going. Shut up.
Looking back, is there accepting that we've already set that up, right? So that you've always been where you're supposed to be.
Sure.
What would you change? Looking back.
Everybody, when they get asked this question, they always, man, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Cap. I would have had a bit more fervor on the front end. I wouldn't have been, you could be like water. You could be that like standing puddle in the pothole in the street, or you could be the freaking Mississippi River, or you could be the Atlantic Ocean. Like there's many different water vibes.
Yeah.
Like you could be that standing water because the front yard isn't graded properly.
Right.
And it's like sometimes I would feel like that standing water. And then sometimes I felt like maybe, a little fountain, you get turned on and it bloop, bloop, oh, that's cute. And then it gets turned off and you don't turn it back on for like months.
Right.
And it's like, oh, snap, we do have that fountain over there. Sometimes I felt like that. And right now, it feels like river, lake, waterfall vibes, because I just feel like I'm just going for whatever right now. Like I'm very much locked in. So if I could have changed anything, if I ever felt like standing water, parasites grow in standing water.
That's a bar.
Mosquitoes are drawn to standing still water, diseases and things. If it's moving water, generally everything's getting
recycled.
You know what I'm saying? There's a natural cleansing to the movement. I would have been moving a little more on that be like water vibe.
Another quote: a man never steps into the same river twice, because he's never the same man and it's never the same river.
That's real.
I love that one too.
Yeah, and right now I feel like, so let's stick on that. I'm a man of faith, and I remember my prayer probably like 2018 going into 19 and 20 being like, I wanted new scenery. I don't know what I was doing to achieve it at that time, but I know I was like, I want some new scenery. And I wind up leaving JP, Jefferson Parish Public School System, still at Loyola. The Loyola job pops up for Hip-Hop and R&B. My homie's like, bro, come, like, do the full-time thing, help me build the thing that you and I discussed back in 2014. Like, let's build it the right way. And at the time, I thought I was about to get into, like, venue management and curation. I was, like, in the final set of people for this local venue. And I was like, that'll be a way to, like, travel and, like, be in the mix and interface with these artists. And I could do that. So I was about to pivot to that.
Hard, too.
Yeah, like, completely out of education. And I remember my prayer being like, God, close the doors I don't need to walk through, open the ones that I do. And I remember being in the final stages of that. I had applied to all kinds of universities because at the time I had applied to like a community college in California, some colleges in Atlanta, Florida, Philly, New York, like all kinds of universities because they had music technology opening. So I was like, let me get to one of the big 3 cities, probably some Texas stuff too, like applying to any music technology thing I could get just to get out of the city at that time. And nobody called me back. Baton Rouge Community College didn't call me back. Baton Rouge freaking Community College. And I was like, and no disrespect to BRCC. But it was just like, I got this many years of experience at Loyola doing the adjunct thing, teaching essentially a full load of courses. I've taught all the stuff y'all need taught. In California, they needed a program built, essentially. So like, I'm like, man, let's get it. And nobody called. And then I'm in the final stages of this venue joint, and they just stopped responding to emails.
The venue opportunity.
Yeah. Stop responding. I didn't hear a thing from them. Loyola was the only thing that I heard from. And I was like, God, not that door. I meant like speed up the process on this venue thing. Nah. Everything closed up. And man, saying that I want new scenery and winding up teaching at my high school I graduated from and now at the university I graduated from, undergrad. It's just like, ain't new scenery, but it's definitely a new view. So same river, but different man, different river for sure.
I love
that. I feel like Loyola was definitely that same river, but not the same.
Right.
I definitely wasn't the same dude going as I left because now I can build the thing that I wanted while I was there. I didn't have it. So now I'm responsible for building that culture and that curriculum, not only for myself, but for the entire world.
Right.
This university in like West London or East London, something like that, they hit me up and was like, how in the world did y'all do this? Can we get on a call and tell me how you did it? Like, how did you create a Bachelor of Science in Hip-Hop and R&B? So it's just like, in so many universities, like, that would hit and be like, what? How? You know? So
what do you think is the utility then of having that bachelorette?
Of hip-hop and R&B? It's like,
for someone to say, I'm going to school, I'm going to college for a bachelorette in hip-hop and R&B, what are the students that go into that, and what are their applications of that degree?
So it's students that want to be recording artists or music producers or a combination of the two. It has the same use as any other music degree. It's what you do with it. So like, if you're in the conservatory, right? Are you familiar with the conservatory?
It's funny you say that. We had a guest, Percy Bell, one of our last previous recordings, and he had mentioned, and he's an actor.
Oh, where?
And he had mentioned a conservatory versus like your standard acting school that you do at like regular college or so conservatory is being highly focused
on that one
thing.
And for hip hop and R&B, obviously we're at a Jesuit institution, you know, educating the whole person is the mission. Very philanthropic by nature of the Jesuits. But when you get to Loyola, it's a family thing when it comes to hip-hop and R&B program. And we want to create that conservatory energy while still being in a practical university setting. So recording studios being open 24/7, access to myself, you know, not only as your professor that teaches you these things, but I'm a producer, songwriter, musician myself. So, you know, when I pushed for the idea of just bringing our network in and bringing these professional artists like a Benji or the producer for Lucky Day and Victoria Monet and Silk Sonic D Mile, bringing him and John Kersey, Grammy award-winning engineer, Natalie Prosper, like a master connector executive in the music game right now, bringing in Billboard records like Ricky Rich, songwriter based out of Atlanta, A Chic based out of Atlanta, platinum producer Christo, that's JID's producer. Like meeting all these people myself personally and then bringing them in and saying, hey, work with the students. That's that conservatory energy. If someone's hitting us up saying, hey, I need this sort of record for this sort of thing, like we have a event coming up really soon and that I'm helping out with, and it's like, hey, for this event, how can we incorporate your students? I know your students are pretty talented. So it's just like, that's the energy we're creating. So what do you do with this degree? You make that thing work. It's very entrepreneurial. You're coming to HHRB at Loyola. That's what we call it for short.
HRB.
Yeah, Hip-Hop and R&B. So you come to HHRB at Loyola to get your chops up. So hopefully like second semester freshman year or first semester sophomore year, you're at a point where like labels come and executives and all that stuff pull up and it's like, who's that? Who's that? You know, that's what we want. We want you to get out of here. So like one of King Carson and Playboy Cardi. Are you familiar with them? So one of their consistent producers, Lucrative, is a former student.
That's amazing.
Of our program.
What does that make you feel like?
Crazy, like crazy, man. He actually went to Haynes. And again, same river, different man, right? So I'm back at Loyola, and then this dude, his parents were kind of skeptical of him going into the music thing, as any parent would be. I'm sure you would. If your child came in and was like, I'm about to go, you know, be a principal at the ballet in New York, or I'm about to go be first chair in the symphony, you're going to be like, come on. I'm going to the NBA. That's essentially what you're saying. I'm going to the NFL. That's what you're saying, getting a hip-hop and R&B degree. But what it truly is just building elite creatives.
I love that.
That's what it is. And you're going to learn the business, the performance, and the technology of it all. But the craft is how you use all those elements. And we give you the environment to hone that craft. It's just up to you how well you hone it, or if you hone it at all. So like, you know, Lucrative, a former student. Incognita is an LA rapper signed to Issa Rae's label, Radio. She's from our program. Yeah, man, it's just like, this is what our students do, you know, even as students. Like my first record with Benji getting released by Epic Records, I had like 6 of my students on it.
That's amazing.
Doing background vocals.
That's amazing.
So it's like that same river, but I'm able to give students an opportunity that I didn't get.
Right.
Like they own a portion of the record. Like, you know, a major label release, like they have that under their belt. And then like singing together and everything, that same 3 of those students like sang the national anthem at the playoff game at the Smoothie King Center for the Pels, like sold out arena. Like that's nuts. It's crazy, man. Like one of my students sings background for Isabel Davis. I don't know how into gospel music you are, but Isabel Davis is dope, super dope artist. She sings background for her. It's just like it empowers all of the students that come in to really go get it and not be such a like standing water type thing. Like I push them so much because it's like I don't want y'all to be stagnant.
Right.
I want y'all to go get it. And if you don't want to go get it, transfer to another program to go get some conventional job, because you don't get into hip-hop and R&B program and
to be conventional.
No. You understand life about to be different.
Right.
And every step of the way, my life been a little different. Obviously conventional as an educator, but like this professor of hip hop and R&B thing, like we're literally writing the rule book on what that even means.
Right.
So it's been a vibe.
You're a pioneer in your own right, and that's
Facts.
That's
it's wild to think.
That is amazing. What are you looking forward to? What's the future like for you? So the way I always ask this, or the way I pose this question, is 3, 5, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope to see out of your life in 3, 5, 10 years? And it could just be what are you hoping to stand out in those different phases, those different timelines?
Yeah. So as a creative, I want the outlets and relationships to be able to do whatever I want creatively. Again, the monotony thing doesn't work well with me.
Right.
So all things creative, live production, film, television, the whole thing. The music of film, writing television, scoring television.
You want to do all that?
Oh, for sure.
That's
so
amazing.
I've written for film already, so that's like really fun. I enjoy that. Like a crazy project that came up, I composed a piece titled 846 in 2020 during kind of the racial unrest thing. Honoring George Floyd. Obviously, they corrected the time. It's no longer 8 minutes, 46 seconds. He got kneeled on. It's like closer to 9 minutes or something like that. But at the time, we had 8 minutes, 46 seconds.
Yeah.
46 seconds. So composed this piece to be debuted on the National Mall with this architectural installation. And 846 was at that time, I said that it was, and it may still be like the most soulful piece of music I've ever created. Because it was draining. Composing something about racial unrest is just like wild. Like, you know, talking about mass incarceration or capital punishment, racial lynching, like how do you put music to that? So it's like I'm researching like sounds of nature, like cicadas, and like not just any tree, but like what does like an oak tree with moss in it or whatever, what does that sound like? Like the very top of the piece starts with like water swishing around, oddly enough, kind of beckoning back to the Amistad. So like starting you there and then taking you all the way through this like journey. So it's like doing that, I was like, yeah, I mess with this. It was draining. I still haven't listened to the entire thing since 2020 because it's
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But like doing that type of work, like meaningful work like that is fire. Doing film, fire, a couple of indie films. So composing for film is really fun to me. Haven't done television yet, but I want to get into all those spaces. Community-wise, the arts community as it relates to just the community at large, students, children, adults, the whole thing, impacting the live event space in the city.
Do you feel like do you feel like your role as the curator of HHRB at Loyola, do you feel like that's something you see yourself in 10 years still doing?
At Loyola?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. If it serves me, still, I could see it. I definitely know as things are right now, like just being more prevalent in LA, Atlanta, just being around more. just having left LA a few weeks ago and just being tapped in. So being on the move is definitely a thing that I'm trying to figure out for my schedule.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And academia just allows you that flexibility, but also the security that the entertainment industry just doesn't do.
That's fair.
You know, so maybe I know I don't want to leave until I know I can leave and it functions as if I were there. I know I'll always maintain some level of connection to the program.
Right.
So regardless of when I'm no longer there, it don't matter. It's my baby.
Yeah, right.
You know, so I'm always be connected. But yeah, I foresee just being able to be as creatively open as I want to be. So scoring film, scoring television, creating different experiences as it relates to entertainment, because like art just does it for me. It's one of those things you can like delve into and from a wholesome, fruitful perspective, like gain something out of it. So that's all I want, man. Love and joy, bro.
We're looking for some theme music for the podcast.
Done.
So
just tell me what you want. I got you.
All right. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Raney Antoine Jr.
My dog.
I appreciate you.
Big
man.
Ugo.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Yes, sir. That was good. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode of The Last Zebra. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. We have new episodes coming out every Tuesday on all your podcast platforms and on YouTube. Looking forward to seeing you all on the next one.